So human posture, that Homo erectus posture, is something that every human starts out with. Unfortunately, in today's society, we tend to sit more than we need to, and this changes the way we stand, the way we move, and we begin to lose these natural movement patterns over a lifetime. These natural movement patterns are the movements that we were born with, that have developed over eons and eons. When a little baby learns how to walk, you can watch them as they start to get up off the ground. It's very interesting because the babies will start to do yoga positions, the up dog and down dog, to get the hips off the ground, and then ultimately we'll start to get onto the feet into like a squat position, and then stand up into a fully erect position. And when you start to watch little kids stand and walk around and run around, you'll notice they have perfect posture, and they're up on their toes, and their knees are soft, and their backs are arched, and they just look like the anatomical position. And when you look at it on a chart, everything's lined up. That's how little babies and little infants and toddlers, as they start standing, walking, how they look when they're moving. Now, at an early age, we put kids into high chairs and then into desk as we start school. And from that point on, as we grow older, we just start sitting more and more and more and more until a large majority of our life is in that forward flexed position, or that seated position. And this really wreaks havoc to our natural movement patterns. We start to change the way we move. We compensate for the weaknesses in our body from the seated position. A lot of the back of the body becomes very weak. The posterior chain of the body, the gluteus maximus, the lower back muscles, the lats, the hamstrings. A lot of those muscles are very strong and powerful postural muscles that keep us upright. But if we spend a lot of our time sitting, then we lose the ability to utilize their strengths. Those muscles become very, very weak, and our natural movement patterns become not so natural. Yes, we adapt to our societal patterns of sitting and over our lifetime, but it's really one of the reasons why so many people have back issues. So many people have these chronic pain issues in their knees, in their shoulders. A lot of these chronic issues can go back to you can track them back to how we hold ourselves throughout the day. So addressing these positions that we find ourselves in every day, and finding a strength and conditioning program to address these weaknesses is very important with our philosophy. So when somebody comes in and we kind of tell them what we can do for them, we look at their body and look at how they move in their assessment, and we start to look at how are they moving that's different than the way we should be moving. How are they walking? How are they standing? How are they picking things up? How are they bending over? How are they twisting? How are they turning? All these fundamental natural movements change over our lifetime. So it's definitely a big part of our assessment plan, our assessment program, when we see somebody for the first time, is looking at how they move. How have they moved away from the natural movements? And that's something that we really focus on instilling in a new client early on, is teaching them those natural movements again. The squatting, the twisting, the turning, the lifting. Teaching your body how to move again is the best way to correct a lot of these chronic pain issues. When all the muscles are working equally around the joints, and the joints are no longer having the stressors on them that are causing the pain. A lot of times I work with somebody that has a knee issue, it's a great example, and I tell them, well, listen, if you're sitting all the time, your knee is in a flex position, your hamstrings are short and disengaged, your quadriceps are kind of lengthened and engaged, disengaged as well. And then when you go to stand up, our quadriceps are kind of the compensatory muscles because we tend to use them a lot more, and the hamstrings don't help as much to stabilize that posterior pull on the knee. So the knee tends to have more of an anterior positioning or pull on it throughout when we stand up and walk around. And then we go to the gym and we do squats, and we do these fast squats because we want to move fast. We got to get our heart rate up. And it's very common for people to go very fast through these squats, and it causes these quadriceps to fire very quickly and rapidly, and it neglects the hamstrings and the glutes roll in the squat. So we just get in this this pattern where it becomes quadricep dominant, and we get just more and more anterior pull on the knee. What that does is the small amount of space in the knee, if it starts to push in one direction, that forward direction, then you start to get deterioration of that joint, whether it's stress on the meniscus or cartilage damage. All kinds of things can go on in the knee with that too much anterior and not enough posterior pull. So going back to the natural movement patterns, we would teach people how to use their hamstrings again, their glutes, the posterior muscles of the body. The calves are important in stabilizing the knee as well. We would teach them how to use those muscles to start to correct that imbalance around the knee. So that's just one joint that we would look at, and the knee is a very important one for walking and running and lifting and bending. So, that's just one imbalance in the human body. One joint that's imbalanced from that seated position or that quadricep dominant position, or that quadricep dominant movement, So you can find those imbalances in any joint in the body, whether it's your ankles, your knees, your hips, your sacrum, your sacroiliac joint, your spine, the vertebrae, in the lumbar or the thoracic. The shoulders especially are really, really imbalanced in most people in today's society, because we don't have to lift and pull things as much, and we're usually doing things in front of our body. So again, another anterior dominance when it comes to the imbalances between front and back. So those imbalances really just pull us away from our natural movement patterns. So what you can do, is really focus on strengthening up the posterior side of the body to bring your body back into that erect position, so that you're more balanced out and more anatomical in all that you do, whether it's a squat, a lunge, a deadlift, standing, sitting, moving, running, sprinting. It all carries over. Just teaching the body natural movement is huge. Plus, your brain understands natural movement patterns because it's instinctual. We've just gotten so far away from it that we tend to forget it. So by reminding the brain, hey, this is how it needs to be, your brain catches up pretty quick. So it can be a quick progression into learning those natural movement patterns again, and then you're well on your way to correcting your chronic pain issues. And also, from a performance standpoint, I get this a lot with golfers. I don't call myself a golf-specific trainer, but I do find that when I teach golfers how to use the posterior chain more, they end up becoming a lot better at golf because they have more control, more power, because now they're using those stronger muscles at the back of the body. And so it will really carry over to all kinds of sports, whether you're a pitcher or a tennis player or football player. Strengthening the back of the body is going to make you perform better and decrease your risk of injuries. Because if everything's stabilizing the joints, your joints are going to be at less risk for those negative stressors. So, moral of the story, correct the movement patterns in the body, move them, or move the client towards those natural movement patterns, and then the little aches and pains are going to go away because everything's going to be functioning properly. So natural movement patterns, definitely a big component of the best method. Thank you.